Hi, I'm Peter Haddock and I'm here at Liebherr in Biggleswade with Fred from Fireward. Fred, the last time I saw the team, I actually came down to the Reacton facility in the UK where they make the fire suppression system that you're the UK dealer for. Now, it's real, folks. Yes, the factory's there, but we're fitting it to machines like this brand new Liebherr that's going to be in a waste handling application. This is really important, isn't it? You've got a great relationship with Liebherr, but the fire suppression in specific areas like waste handling, absolutely vital.
Absolutely. So Fireward's, we're working across the whole of the UK with a variety of different OEMs, working in hazardous industries like your waste and recycling, ports, the aggregates and quarries market. Each have different hazards depending on certain machines. So the particular machine we're with today, LH18 material handler. This is for a waste application for one of our major clients. We've obviously been at the factory, we've seen where the system is designed, manufactured, put into the test, but this is where it really gets interesting, when it's physically on a machine. You can see the design parameters from our engineers and why we do what we do.
And this is really important, folks, because you're saying design parameters. For a fire suppression system, normally people would think you just bolt it on, you just put it in. However, there's certain areas that you need to actually look at per machine. And every time a machine, we have a new variant of a machine, your engineers have to work together again with the OEM, in this case Liebherr, to make sure that you're channeling everything in the right place, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, you can be forgiven for thinking that when it comes to machines, you're just looking at the engine. You're just looking at a particular block that you're protecting, but it's not. There's the hydraulics of the machine, there's the electrics of a machine. If you look inside, there's the turbochargers, the DPFs, the exhaust manifold that are running very hot inside there. And especially when it comes to the waste environments where there's combustible debris, all of these factors are based around how we design the systems and how we implement that to keep operators safe while working on heavy plant and machinery.
So let's quickly talk about that, because fire suppression system that you have is very unique in how you do it. First of all, made in the UK, which is great. I've seen the engineering that even goes into the nozzle and the tiny piece of instrumentation you use to make sure everything is within huge tight tolerances. But how do you put your system in, and why does that matter to people like that are working in these sort of industries?
So when it comes to protecting the plant itself, you want a fire system that's in the way enough to deal with a fire, but out of the way enough that it's not in the way of day-to-day operations, your maintenance, your checks of those machines. So when the engineers come to installing the systems, they're looking at the key hazard areas, how close they can get that detection with not being too close. You're going to get false activations or problems with that system. Which nozzle you're going to use around a compartment to get the right coverage, depending on the obstructions in a way. You can't always get the line of sight that's going to deal with a fire. So what nozzle coverage do you need in that, which then transpires back to how big your cylinders you need, the agent type you need for particular hazards, and how that integrates with the machine itself, be it with shutdown or battery isolation options as well. It's all pre-engineered, but designed by the engineers when they get to site. Risk assessments, hazard analysis, how can we protect that machine the best we can?
And of course, this is a kind of fit and forget system. However, like everything, you should be maintaining a system like this. And you've even told me before that you can take old systems off an old machine in some cases and then put it on a newer one like this if the customer's changing it out. That's because, all the componentry is to a high standard, but also, that system hasn't gone off.
Yeah, the cylinders themselves by EU pressure equipment directives have 10-year lifespan. But if you've got a machine that you're keeping for 3, 4, 5 years, it'd be remiss to get rid of that system that you've paid for the hardware for.
Yep.
You're getting a like-for-like new model, or even sometimes a slightly different model, but we can change a couple of hoses but use the main components, maximise the lifespan of that fire system so that every end user dealer is getting the maximum ability to protect multiple machines and not just the one.
And of course, folks, when it does go off, it's doing everybody a big favour, because there is a fire there. We're then suppressing that fire. We're then making sure the damage is to an absolute minimum, if anything major at all. And so obviously, if that happens, then what happens? Because you've got engineers around fitting these to new machines, but what actually happens when that's gone off, because we need to get that machine back working again.
Absolutely. I mean, it'd be all very well and good supplying fire systems to the market, but if you can't look after them on the back end, then you're not really helping your end users. You know, critical assets that need to have the uptime. So Fireward, we invest in our nationwide team of engineers so that any given customer is no more than a couple of hours away from any engineer at a time. Right. We prioritise the call-outs. You know, if you're working in a port operation, there's a ship in, you're unloading, and your machine's stood down, your ability to trim a ship out or process that reduces drastically. So the priority for us is, should the worst happen, there's been a fire, the fire's been put out, but the machine can't be used till the fire system's back up and active, we get an engineer there as a priority to make sure that that downtime is minimised so end users have that uptime on the assets. And
I think what's really important, we've got telemetry systems and things like that on machines now. We've also got, what's vital is that relationship you have with the OEMs in the UK marketplace, because they are going to have to do some remedial works to that machine and checking if there has been a fire, maybe some cable replacements and things like that. But then it's about them triggering for you to be in the right spot, ready to then put that system back into place, and it all works much more seamlessly together. Now you've got that long-term relationship, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and like I said earlier, we work very closely with a lot of OEMs up and down the country, whether that's mobile plants, whether it's static plant like shredders and trommels, all presenting a high risk, but we work in conjunction with them to make sure everybody knows the process from start to finish. Firstly, what the daily checks on the machines to look after them. Yep. Secondly, how to safely work around the fire system so that you're not doing hot works or doing anything that could trigger the system. But then when there should be, if there should be an incident, what to do after that. You know, you can have a system go off because of a fire, but who do you get in touch with? Well, we've got a dedicated team of operations staff who manage our engineers and their schedules. They will then have a call come in, whether it's the OEM or the end user, arrange to get out to that machine, get it back up and running. The beauty with our engineers at the moment is that their vans are fully stocked. Yep. So we're not having to send pallets of stock out, you know, on emergency shipments with couriers. The engineers have the stock on their vans, so should the worst happen, we can get out in hours, not days, not weeks.
Fantastic. And so, of course, folks, fire suppression systems have to do lots of different things. There's lots of different bits on this piece of kit that is being fitted here at Liebherr. So it's about time I said goodbye to you, Fred. But one thing I'd like to say at the end of here, how many machines have you guys looked after in the UK?
Thousands. As of today, there are currently just over 5,000 active assets protected with a Fireward fire suppression system.
Wow, 5,000 folks, all there protected. Well, let's see how that protection comes in when I do another video with your colleague to see all the fiddly bits about how we put the system together on a machine like this with a compact radius and obviously a lot of fire suppression needed within a waste environment. So see you later. Cheers.
Brilliant. Thanks, Peter.